talking. Welcome everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to our Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan evening of education and presentation. And tonight it's on benefits of an early diagnosis, getting connected to a community of support, featuring our guest panelists, Kurt Kaitler, Diane Hahn, Dr. Austin Little, and Stacy Noble-Weave. My name is Karen Marcinque, and I am the program manager for the Programs and Services team for the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan. The people of the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan are privileged to live and work across the traditionally sacred land we now know as Saskatchewan. We recognize the legacy and enduring presence of the Cree, Dakota, Dene, Nakota, Lakota, Saulteaux, and Métis people, who are the original stewards of the rolling hills, rushing rivers, and living sky we all share today. As an organization, we acknowledge the harms of the past and how Indigenous people are still impacted by the process of colonialism. Through education partnerships and collective action, we commit to honoring our relationship with the land, our treaties, and each other as we journey towards Wakota Hisawin. So that's reconciliation in Cree. Before we begin, I'd like to take care of just a few housekeeping items. Thank you to our supporting sponsors, SaskTel Telcare and SGI. The panelist discussion tonight will be recorded. Please know only the presenters and panelists that you see right now on the screen are the ones that are being shown in the recording. Your faces and names will not be shown on the screen as participants. Following tonight, an email will be sent to you with a short participant evaluation survey and other relevant resources. And during the panelist discussion, you can type your questions for the presenters in the Q&A function, which should be near the bottom of your screen. We will have a brief question period at the end of the presentations, where I'll read the questions that have been typed in, and I'll read those to the panelists. For the portion of the discussion where our presenter Stacy is speaking, the chat function will be available. So you will be able to use the chat while she is doing her little part. Otherwise, please type all your questions into the Q&A part. We ask that you keep your questions relevant to the topic being presented tonight, and general questions only, not personal ones. The presenters will not be giving personal advice and will not comment on a personal situation. And so you'll just hear from me for a couple more minutes. I want to introduce briefly all of the wonderful panelists we have this evening. So Kurt Kaitler worked for Tourism Saskatchewan as the manager of industry development, which utilized his BA in human geography. Even though he is on leave now, he loved how the job took him all over North America. Kurt is surrounded by a loving family that consists of his parents and 3 boys, and we can't forget Jax, his trusty dog. Kurt's passion is spending time with his boys, and on top of that, he strives to get 10,000 steps in each and every day. Diane Hahn lives in Swift Current and is a primary caregiver for her 90-year-old mother who has vascular dementia. Diane is married and has an adult son with a chronic health disease. She works full-time as a rural municipal administrator and is on the local school board. Diane has been involved in support groups with the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan since her mom was diagnosed almost 3 years ago. Dr. Austin Little is a Saskatchewan-trained family physician working in Swift Current. He also helps staff at the Mint Memory Clinic, which is a multidisciplinary clinic that helps with the diagnosis and coordinating services for those diagnosed with dementia. And Stacy Noble-Weave is the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan's First Link coordinator for the Cypress Resource Center based in Swift Current. Stacy provides Alzheimer Society clients with individualized information and support, connects clients with relevant programs and services, facilitates the Swift Current Care Partner support group, and is on the Southwest Mint Memory Clinic team. So welcome to all the panelists for tonight. Tonight we will be having a panel discussion about this evening's topic, about benefits of an early diagnosis, getting connected to a community of support. First, I will be directing questions to Dr. Austin Little. So just give me a moment to grab my questions and then we'll get started with that. Okay, Dr. Little, the first question I have for you is, what is dementia?
All right, you're able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So in terms of dementia, it is an umbrella term that we often use for either cognitive or neurocognitive disorders. Cognitive just means that it basically affects memory, affects function in some way, shape, or form. And then neurocognitive means that there's some other neurological effects. That can be with walking, that can be with coordination, that can be with mood, all of those types of things. In a sense, it's basically an abnormal change in memory and function. This can either be because of an underlying brain disorder, such as something like Alzheimer's, or an underlying medical disorder, whether someone has had something like a stroke or they have another brain disorder that is leading to these memory changes that's not just Alzheimer's. It can be something that just happens gradually over time, or it can be something that happens acutely and then progresses over time. It affects everyone differently, but the biggest thing is noticing those memory changes and those functional changes. People just aren't the same as they were before.
Thank you. What are the benefits of an early dementia diagnosis?
So from a medical standpoint, so us as like a medical team, the benefit is that a lot of our treatments, our interventions, our therapies, they work best when people are diagnosed early. A lot of our lifestyle changes that we recommend help preserve function of the brain, preserve function of memory. And so if we catch it early, that means that we get to keep your brain as functional as possible. We get to keep your memory as functional as possible. From a family and a patient standpoint, it is a sense of closure. It does allow them to actually have some sort of a diagnosis going forward. It allows them to actually understand what's going on, especially if they've been dealing with this for weeks, for months, for years, and allows them to actually have some sort of a trajectory or an endpoint to work towards. They actually know what's going on and they can actually focus their time, energy, and work towards trying to prevent things. Like I said, unfortunately, when things are more severe, when we're needing more help, a lot of our interventions don't work as well. And it can be a bit disheartening for family when they hear that there's nothing really left to do.
Okay, and your final question I have, it's kind of a two-pronged one though I see I have, is where can a Saskatchewan resident go to receive a diagnosis? So that's the first part, where can they go? And then do you have suggestions for them to prepare for an appointment?
Okay, so in terms of who can provide a diagnosis, the mainstay for us to diagnose someone with dementia is that they need to have something called a cognitive assessment. That's usually some form of a memory or skill testing assessment. Some of the things that you may have been thrown out is a mini mental, an MMSE, or a MOCA. These are all skills and tools that we use to assess people for their cognitive assessment. These can be performed by multiple people. They can be done by your general practitioner, your family doctor. They can be performed by nurse practitioners. They can be performed by occupational therapists, both those that are publicly accessible, as well as those that are privately accessible, those that you'd have to pay for. That cognitive assessment gives us kind of a snapshot of how things are going in terms of function, in terms of memory, in terms of brain function. We don't always make a diagnosis with the first assessment. Sometimes it takes a couple of assessments just to make sure that we're not seeing you on an off day, that there's nothing else going on. Especially if you see someone like a nurse practitioner or a family doctor, they may do some blood work or a CT scan to make sure that there isn't another medical condition that's going on, to make sure that it's not contributing to the memory issues or the brain function concerns that are going on. But if that diagnosis occurs, then usually it's from either a nurse practitioner, a family doctor, or from an occupational therapist. In terms of how to prepare for that diagnosis, a lot of it is trying to be present and open in that assessment, being present and open during that conversation, being aware that it might not be a definitive diagnosis in that first assessment, that it might be we noticed some changes or we've noticed some decline. We'd like to check this again in a couple of months, which is not it's not I don't know what's going on. It's we want to make sure this is the right diagnosis. We don't want to label you as something that's inappropriate. And it also gives us some time if we do need to do that blood work, or if we do need to do that imaging, to make sure there's not something else going on. The final thing I'd want to recommend is that if you are either a patient going for that memory assessment for that dementia diagnosis, or if you're a family member or a caregiver going for that dementia diagnosis, being aware that there is always something that we can recommend, but we don't always know if it's going to work. And so just being aware that we can make lots of recommendations, we can make lots of things that are offered, but the earlier we find those things, the better the outlook is going to be.
Thank you. And was there anything more you wanted to add about suggestion to prepare for an appointment, or did that, I think you covered that as well.
In terms of like preparing for that appointment, a lot of things that we talk about in that first appointment is lifestyle modifications. It's usually those things that you've had beaten over your head for the last 30, 40, 50 years. Getting regular sleep, eating regular meals, having physical activity, staying socially connected, doing something involving the arts, the humanities, something like that. And so if you already have those things, then we're already making the appropriate steps. We often try to avoid things. We also often talk about things to avoid that can make memory worse. So limiting smoking, limiting alcohol, limiting things that can impair your memory. And then making sure that you're aware of kind of like the medical, social things that can go on. So whether this is a discussion about living independently at home, having services available to help you live safely at home, if driving is a safe thing, those types of things. They don't always come up with that first assessment or that first diagnosis, but if things are getting quite severe, they sometimes do.
Thank you so much, Dr. Little, for answering those questions. And now I will move to speaking with Kurt Kaitler. So Kurt, I have 3 quick questions for you. The first one is, Kurt, can you please tell us a bit about yourself and what dementia diagnosis you have?
Yeah, I'm Kurt Kaitler. I have 3 wonderful sons. I worked at Tourism Saskatchewan as manager of industry development when I was diagnosed with early onset disease. I'm on long-term disability, but I am still very much part of the team. I noticed some changes, such as being unable to complete the timesheet and unable to find my way back to the office after an appointment. I was being treated for depression at that time, and I was having anxiety attacks. My sister had just passed away from cancer.
Okay, thank you, Kurt, for answering the first question. And the second question I had for you are, what were your experiences like as you went through the process of getting a diagnosis?
Yeah. Okay. My family doctor referred me to a neurologist. He kept telling me that I was too young to have these memory issues. I went to Saskatchewan and I was really impressed by all of the testing that they were able to do. I had a CAT scan, an MRI, a PET scan. Oops.
Because I was
Because I was so young, the neurologist had asked another neurologist for a second opinion. And it was the neurologist that gave me the diagnosis. I was put on Aricept, Mediterranean diet, and was told to walk at least 10,000 days or 10,000 steps a day. And I'm still doing that to this day. So
Awesome. And then I have a final question for you. What support or information have you found helpful as you move through your dementia journey?
Okay. When I was first diagnosed, I read the book Still Alice. And I called the Alzheimer Society and joined their Minds in Motion program. And my mom and I have attended for about 2.5 years. This is an excellent program, and we really enjoy it. I find that it
you're not getting much out of Zoom.
Oh yeah, I don't get much out of Zoom activities, as I prefer personal or social. What? Okay, I've been seeing a counselor for 2.5 years. My life is kept very busy with the boys, out for hockey games, movies, ball games. My oldest son comes in from Humboldt to help us out. There's been a lot of changes with moving from my house to an apartment, deciding no longer to drive, and getting help with my shopping. My parents are my caregivers and assist me with things that I have difficulty with. My Alzheimer's diagnosis doesn't define me. Sure, I'm not able to do certain things, but that doesn't stop me from living, loving, playing with my children, or going to a friend's cabin for the weekend, or saying hi to a stranger, or friend, and many more things. I still live on my own, and I am surrounded by great friends. Yes, I do have Alzheimer's, but some days things are pretty great.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Kurt, for sharing. And that's all I have for questions for you. Now I will move to Diane. And Diane, I have a few questions for you. And Diane, what was your experience or your mom's experience with getting your mom diagnosed?
Hi, everyone. So approximately 5 years ago, we had started to notice some memory issues with my mom. And so as a family, we were starting to, pay extra attention and and watched to see what was actually going on. Then about 2 years after that, on a long weekend when there was no walk-in clinic actually open, she developed a bladder infection. So we ended up having to go to the emergency at the hospital. And when she did arrive there, even though she had a bladder infection, her heart rate was also very high at that time. And because of the heart rate, they had actually admitted her to the hospital. And even though she was on medication for the bladder infection and that was starting to improve, her memory wasn't improving at the same rate as her infection was. And so as a result of that, her doctor had sent her for a CT scan on her brain, and that's when it showed that she had vascular dementia.
And what are the benefits of getting a diagnosis?
Oh boy, there's quite a few in my opinion. So my mom didn't fully understand it exactly, but I come from a family with 4 brothers, and we're all married. And so as a family, we were able then to educate ourselves and to try to put some more proper supports into place for mom. Now that we knew exactly what we were dealing with, we could start to learn what was out there, what we needed to do, suggested ideas going forward. We were also able to help her make some decisions about things that needed to be addressed, such as driving and selling her vehicle and those types of things that you need to cross over at some point in time. I personally was able to join Alzheimer's support groups, which has been a huge benefit. And I also think in turn that benefits my mom as well as our family. I think too, as a main caregiver, when you have a husband and 4 siblings and 4 in-laws as well, that just to get that diagnosis just helped me not to have to try and explain so much to my family members, because we were already all on the same page and knew what we were dealing with and were able to, like I said before, educate ourselves. And I think the biggest probably is likely you just really want what is best for your loved one. And so you really want, it just is helpful to know what you're dealing with so that you can educate yourself and you can try and support them and help them in the best way possible, because that's really what you want for your loved one.
Thank you, Diane. Is there anything more you wanted to add about, you've already mentioned it a little bit, so these questions might be redundant, but why do you think it's important to get diagnosed early and what type of supports you've received? So if there's anything more you want to see about those things.
Yeah, I think just to reiterate, just knowing what you're dealing with is the huge thing, and to get support for yourself as a caregiver. I know those first 2 years going through the journey was very, very difficult as the main caregiver, and to know what we were dealing with and going forward with different ideas and stuff that we were able to learn was a huge difference in the journey. As far as supports that we were able to receive, when mom was in the hospital, our family doctor didn't, at that time she was living independently, and so our family doctor didn't want her to leave the hospital until there was a few more supports put into place. So we were able to get supports into place for her at the senior complex that she was living at, things like meals and cleaning and safety checks. And we even were able to get her portered out to social events because she was somewhat withdrawn, if you want to call it that, and living in isolation to a certain degree. And so we were able to get her portered to social events as well. We hired some private supports as well, such as a walker, because walking was always a huge deal in my mom's life. And now, of course, we didn't want her to end up getting lost or misplaced somewhere. So we were able to hire that. And we were able to make arrangements with one of her friends to take her for coffee once a week. I personally had drawn on Alzheimer's support, or the Alzheimer's Society of Saskatchewan. I connected actually with Stacy a few times regarding some knowledge that I was needing. The support groups that I have joined have been amazing, and there's just so much educational material that's available through the staff and on their website and through other avenues. And I guess too, as time progressed and mom progressed more so in her journey, we were able to put her into assisted living in the seniors complex that she is living in as well, which was a huge difference for us too.
Thank you, Diane. Okay, now we'll move to Stacy. Stacy, what are the benefits of getting connected with the Alzheimer's Society of Saskatchewan early, even before a person receives a dementia diagnosis?
Thanks, Karen, and thank you, everybody. I'm glad to be here tonight. So some of the benefits of getting connected with the Alzheimer's Society early is looking at the front end. So looking at prevention kinds of things. So we can provide some information and ideas around how you would prevent dementia in the first place, or attempt to. There's no guarantees with anything, and maintain brain function like Dr. Little had talked about earlier. So like the lifestyle choice kinds of things that he talked about, reducing risk factors, the kinds of things that he referred to already. So information on that type of thing. And then if you're having memory challenges, then whether it's dementia or not, we have resources that you can tap into. Memory tips and tricks is one of the ones that comes to mind for me, but ideas and things that we could share with people as well. And another piece is providing some education and support while you're exploring those wonderings that you have about whether you or somebody that you care about might have dementia. So we can share information about the warning signs, things to be looking for, normal aging versus those kinds of warning signs, so that people can get a better sense of what things are significant and which things are not. And guidance and suggestions on how to go about approaching your physician when you're looking for a diagnosis, so that you go into that appointment and conversation feeling prepared and like you know what it is you want to outline, what it is that you want to ask. And we have a resource for that that's called a Getting a Diagnosis Toolkit.
Great. And that's the next question. Can you explain a little bit more, Stacy, about what the Alzheimer's Society Diagnosis Toolkit is?
You betcha. And I'm going to actually just share my screen. So just give me half a second. Can everybody see that? Yeah. Okay. So this is the Getting a Diagnosis Toolkit. It's a 5-page document, and I'm not going to read through it in detail. I'm just going to kind of give you a little tour and an overview. So if you look at it, it's something, like I said, to get you kind of organized and get your thoughts organized before you go for a visit with your doctor or other health provider, nurse practitioner, whoever it might be. And the first page here has basically a little checklist with a summary of the different things to think about, the different things that are included in this. So you can read through that. And maybe I'll tell you right now, this will be attached to the email that Karen is going to send out afterwards, the follow-up email, so that you will have a copy of it. And if for some reason you don't get it, or you want a friend to have it or something, you can also contact us at the Dementia Helpline, and that contact information will show up later on another slide. So just so you know it's coming. So then the next thing that's in here is the 10 warning signs. These are things to look for that might suggest, you want to go get a diagnosis and find out a little more information. And again, I'm not going to go through them in detail because we don't have time for that today. But I think the most important things to keep in mind are that what you're looking at are things that are significant changes that are different than usual. So for example, this memory changes that affect day-to-day abilities, the first one. You'd be, sometimes we forget names of people and then they come back to us later and things like that. So it's not things like that. It's when it really stands out that the memory changes are affecting their ability to function in day-to-day life. Those are the kinds of moments where you think, okay, we need to look at this more closely. Or like number 8, changes in mood, behavior, and personality. If somebody has tended to always be kind of sad and moody or grumpy, then that's not significant. But if they have tended to be pretty good-natured and content and flowing with life, and then there's a sudden change that other direction, that's the kind of thing you're looking for, is something that's different than usual. So there are those that you can take a peek at, and those can help you partly know whether you might want to think about getting a diagnosis, but also help you gather your thoughts as you're approaching the physician or whoever it might be. And that's also what this next page does, preparing for your doctor's visit. So it's kind of building on those things that were just on the previous page, but it's a checklist. So you can go through it and think about which things you're noticing with yourself or with the person that your loved one that you're concerned about. So whether it's tension, memory, whatever it might be, going through this and checking the things off, maybe jotting down some specific examples so that you know the story of what this looks like in the person's life, how it's showing up. And then that again gets your thoughts organized, and you could even share this checklist. We can ask Dr. Little at the end, but if it might be useful to share that checklist with the physician as well. And then the next page is about medications and medical history. So either making a list of your medications, or lots of people just throw them all in a bag and carry the bag with them to the appointment, which works really well too, because you know, knowing what you're on, sorting through that can be a piece of solving the puzzle of, like Dr. Little had talked about, like ruling out other things in the process of trying to figure out if it might be dementia. And as well, if you're seeing a new doctor, to prepare a list of your current medical conditions, because part of the diagnosis is a process of elimination, and also different things can be interconnected. So, and then more questions to ask your doctor. So it just gives you some ideas again of things that you can be asking them when you're there that you might want to know more information about. And then this last page is just kind of a general idea of the types of things that can be involved in trying to get a diagnosis, because dementia, like Dr. Little had said, it's an umbrella term covering a lot of different things. And there's no like single test or magical imaging thing that can be done to just say, hey, that's what's going on. It's a process of pulling lots of pieces together and ruling different things out. So this just goes through some of the things, you know, that could happen. And again, Dr. Little had talked about those already. So that is the Getting a Diagnosis Toolkit.
Thank you, Stacey. And our final question for you is, what role can the Alzheimer's Society play after a person receives a diagnosis?
So for this question, I was actually hoping that the people that are out there listening to me and all of us would help me answer this question, because we sort of have our perspectives on the services and the supports that we can offer. But I think it's interesting to hear what has stood out for you. Like Diane shared some examples, and so did Kurt when they were talking. So if you want to go down to the bottom of your screen and find the chat function, and I'm just going to double check, is that live now for everybody? I'm seeing just hosts and panelists still on my screen.
I think Carly will have to answer. I can only see that too, Stacey, but I'm hoping, okay, it is open to everyone right now. So just not for us, Stacey, at the moment, I think.
Okay, perfect. So I'm hoping that I get to see the things that they put in there. And Connie, yes, has typed in, yes, it's live. So if you would just type in, any of you have been involved with the Alzheimer's Society, just type in some of the ways that the Alzheimer's Society has played a role for you in your lives as you're getting supports and getting information. And I'd appreciate it if you don't leave me hanging here. So please, people, start typing into that chat box and sending out some of the things that have made a difference to you. Thank you. I can see some popping up already. So, and while people are typing it in, I just wanted to say that one of the things that I don't know if everybody realizes is that the Alzheimer's Society is here to support people with any type of dementia, so not just Alzheimer's disease, and also that we offer support to both people who are living with dementia and also to care partners as well. So both. And for the person living with dementia, like like Dr. Little said, with so many aspects of this. The earlier on people get involved, the more support we can give while they're still able to appreciate it. And then caregivers all the way along in the journey. So I'm just going to read a couple things people have typed in here. So Val says that the sandwich group has been very helpful for her. And the sandwich group is one of the support groups that the Alzheimer's Society offers. And the support groups Diane had referred to that too. They're a chance for people to come together and share their experiences, what they've learned, just to have people who understand what they're going through listen to them. And the people that attend regularly have told me that it is very, very precious to them because they learn so much from each other, and being in a space with people who understand what it is they're going through so that they don't feel alone is important to them. So Irma says, this is my first meeting I've ever attended. I'm greatly looking forward to any type of support that I can get with my mother, as I am her sole caregiver. So I hope we give you lots of ideas, Irma, as we're doing this. And Darlene says there's a lot of information on the Alzheimer's Society's website. So yes, there's another resource. In fact, I'm going to be honest with you. I find our website is so rich in resources that it can be a little bit overwhelming sometimes, which is where it's nice to connect person to person and share things too. But yes, it is very rich. There's a lot on there. And okay, so Carrie, that would be, oh no, you know what? That's not in the everyone. So we're going to skip that. That's a Q&A for later. And Melanie also, and if I'm saying people's names wrong, I really apologize, said that she has just registered her mom for Minds in Motion. This is her first meeting and she's looking forward to more ideas. So I appreciate all of you who have typed something in, and if there's more that pop up, I'll pay attention. But what I would also add, I guess, oh, and so Val's saying meeting with the First Link coordinators. So that's the role that I'm in, and we're all across the province, and that she got a ton of information. And so First Link coordinators, we can connect with people over, mostly we do it over the phone. Sometimes in certain circumstances, it can be in person, but usually it's over the phone. And we can do regular follow-up calls, like anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 months apart. So if, you know, there's not a lot changing, we don't have to check in that often. And if there's a lot of things going on, we can check in more regularly. It's all up to you to decide with us. And with the First Link program, the goal is that we can give you individualized information specific to whatever you're navigating, and connect you with supports both through the Alzheimer's Society and also through SHA and the community, like trying to pull together everything that's out there to see what might match what you need. And also like giving you ideas and topics that you might not have thought of yet, like talking about power of attorney and wills, or being prepared for emergencies, or the issue of driving before it has become an issue, so that you're more prepared to like be proactive instead of reactive as you're dealing with things, instead of ending up in crisis situations so much. And I know I've been told by people they find that's helpful support in supporting them as they're figuring out what their next action step will be. So that's the First Link program. And we have appreciated all aspects of Minds in Motion, social exercise and activities, and I appreciate the check-ins from the Alzheimer's Society staff. So that's that First Link stuff. And the Minds in Motion program, like they said, it's partly exercise program and it's partly socializing with other people. So two of the big things to do to keep your brain healthy. So it's an excellent resource, and they're in person sometimes and virtual sometimes, depending. And so that one is to hosts and panelists, sorry. And person shows warning signs. Okay, again, some of these are more, I think the people who are like Shailene and Judy who are looking at things might want to peek at this, because some of these are more like Q&A questions, I think, for at the end. So, And as far as other services, let me just think what we haven't covered. So for people who are living with dementia, I think, you know, Kurt kind of summed it up nicely when he was talking, because he was talking about how he is still living life fully, doing many things and enjoying it. And I think that's one of the ways we can offer to support to people who are living with dementia, is helping remind them and their caregivers and family that there is a front end to this, not just a back end, because sometimes people get stuck on picturing sort of the end game, and we can play a role in helping you focus on having quality of life and on all the strengths that you still have in this moment, and provide information to make informed choices about your future while you're able to do so. And these learning series, we do those, the education piece. So they're like little mini courses that you can take where you get together with others and you learn about important information, and they're kind of broken down into different stages along the journey with dementia. Evenings of education like tonight. And all of this that's going on this fall is listed on our programs and events webpage on our website, which I suspect Karen is probably going to share with you as well. And I think you've probably heard enough from me, so I think that's my answer.
Thank you so much, Stacey. And to all of the panelists, that was really wonderful interacting with you and having this Q&A part. And speaking of Q&A, we'll be able to do a little bit more here in a few slides. So if you have some questions for the panel, you can type them into the Q&A part now. They won't be answering personal questions, but if you have general questions about the topic tonight, you can do that now. So type them in there, and while you're thinking and typing, I'm also going to share a few slides from the Alzheimer's Society, telling you a little bit more about what we do. Stacey's already done a wonderful job about that too, but I will tell you a little bit more. So just hold on. I'm going to just share my screen.
And while Karen's getting her screen shared, the one thing I forgot to do is I want to say thank you to all the people who typed something into the chat box. Thank you so much.
Okay, and just bear with me. I'm hoping you can see just the slides now. Is that right? Okay, great. Okay, so I just want to tell you a little bit about the Alzheimer's Society. So the vision of the Alzheimer's Society is to live in a world without Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. And our mission is to empower all people to live well with dementia, while funding research into prevention, cures, and quality of life through advocacy and awareness. A couple of things to note: a person does not need a formal diagnosis to be connected with us, and we support those affected by Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, and have resources and knowledge about many types of dementias. What can clients expect from us? And Stacey's touched on some of these things. So individualized connection and support, information and support, learning opportunities, as she's mentioned, such as our learning series, which is for people with dementia, their families and friends to learn about ways to live as well as possible with the diseases. The courses offered build upon each other, covering the continuum of the disease. And we also have evenings of education like tonight, and those are standalone topics we usually have about 4 times a year on different topics. There's the support groups that were mentioned, and that provides you with information, social support from each other. And we also have Minds in Motion, and that is a program we offer throughout the year at different times. It's usually 10 weeks, weekly program that is 2 hours per week that combines physical activity and social activity. And that's for people with early stage dementia or early stage symptoms, and a friend, family member, or care partner. And I believe someone did ask about that. And you do not have to be diagnosed with dementia at that point, but you might be having early symptoms of possibly dementia. So that might be a really good opportunity for you as Minds in Motion. Connection to other organization. This includes providing information. We can do this on available other services provided like by the SHA, other government agencies, and lists of private or community-based organizations that can help support you in your dementia journey. Our shift to also offering virtual and online programming has increased our ability to provide additional programs to our communities. And I do have the Dementia Helpline phone number on there that has been mentioned by Stacey before. And I believe in the chat was also placed the email address too, if you'd prefer to email. And let's just talk real briefly about dementia research. And the keys to progress lie in investing in dementia research, revealing the mysteries of the diseases that cause dementia, and advancing diagnosis, treatment, and prevention. And all research stimulates hope for the best life. The ASOS, the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan, funds research in partnership with Alzheimer societies across Canada through the Alzheimer Society Research Program. And we depend on the expertise of the Alzheimer Society Research Program to allocate research dollars to innovative peer-reviewed projects that focus on finding treatments, causes, and cures, and improving the quality of life for people currently living with dementia. So Saskatchewan research is vital to advance opportunities and enrich the best possible life for Saskatchewan people whose experience involves dementia. And we depend on the expertise of the Saskatchewan Health Research Foundation to allocate research dollars to peer-reviewed projects in the province. Did you know that 3 out of every $4 the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan receives comes from donations? So donations really inspire hope to provide early diagnosis, greater awareness for new medications and treatments, to provide strategies for coping, to provide care partners the confidence in their abilities, and to continue to serve Saskatchewan communities with support and resources that are reflective of your needs. Donations come in during events as sponsorships, gifts left in wills, monthly donations, or as a general donations to the Society. We have Alzheimer's Society resource centers across Saskatchewan. And in last year, in the 2022-2023 fiscal year, we served close to 2,700 clients from 300 different Saskatchewan communities. We have Alzheimer's Society resource centers supporting the following former health regions. So Cypress, serving Swift Current in Southwest Saskatchewan. We have Prairie North, serving Battlefords in Northwest Saskatchewan. Prince Albert Parkland, serving PA and Northeast Saskatchewan. Regina Coppell, serving Regina, Moosomin and surrounding areas. Saskatoon, serving Saskatoon, Humboldt and surrounding areas. Sun Country, serving Weyburn. Estevan in Southeast Saskatchewan, and Sunrise, serving Yorkton and East Central Saskatchewan. If you have any questions about dementia or need someone to talk to, you can call the province-wide toll-free dementia helpline phone number listed above, and it runs Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. They can also connect you to the First Link coordinators in these different resource centers. And you can also find numbers on our website too for that. But if you can't find it, you can always call our dementia helpline and be connected that way too. I'd love it if you can take a look at our Alzheimer's Society of Saskatchewan website. Our programs and events webpage lists upcoming event information. So that's listed on the page there. And I think you've heard enough from me rambling. I think you want to hear from the panelists. So let's see if we have any questions now. And I also have a final question for the panelists too, if we have a little bit of time. So let me stop sharing. And okay, and I'll just take a peek. I think we have a little bit, there's might be a few questions on chat now too, but I'll mostly focus on the Q&A questions that are coming in. Just give me one moment. Okay, I do have a question for Dr. Little. The question is, how are different kinds of dementia diagnosed? Can a GP or a nurse practitioner differentiate between these?
So your different types of dementia, be it Alzheimer's, vascular, Lewy body, alcohol-associated chronic brain encephalitis, all those fancy ones. Most of them are diagnosed based on both a history, a physical exam, and potentially some imaging. Again, we always do that extra blood work to make sure there's no medical issue that's also contributing to the symptoms that the patient is describing or that the family is noticing. For the most part, the imaging helps us get more information if there is either that vascular component, if there's been a stroke or a vascular injury, or if there's signs that there has been a traumatic brain injury. The history helps in terms of what types of symptoms are showing up. Are we having more of those neurological symptoms, such as movement issues? If they're having more cognitive and emotional symptoms, or is this just memory by itself? In terms of who can make that diagnosis, usually it's between a nurse practitioner or a physician. Most family physicians feel fairly comfortable making that diagnosis. My experience with our memory clinic is about 9 out of 10 people are just a little bit different. They either have symptoms that agree with multiple diagnoses, or it looks like it's a mixed picture, or we're just not 100% sure what's going on. If that's the case, then often we refer them to either a geriatrician, which is an older individual doctor, or an elderly physician, or an elderly patient doctor, or sometimes a neurologist, which is a brain doctor.
Thank you. Okay, I'm just gonna check another one. Okay, and this is to the group. What help can we give people who are elderly, also mobility challenged and nearly deaf, and who have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease? Some things like minds in motion or virtual activities, etc., are too difficult. If anyone's interested in answering.
I can start, and then another thought I have, depending on what Carly's doing and if it works, but there's other First Link coordinators and other care partners and other people living with dementia out there. So if we put the chat on again, they might have ideas and suggestions they could share with us. Ones that popped into my head is, I guess it depends on the degree of difficulty that they're having with mobility and hearing and those kinds of things. But there are adult day programs available in the different health regions, and those can be very valuable. I've heard lots of people say how much fun they have when they go to those, because they do different activities. There's lunch, there's crafts, there's music, there's all kinds of different things going on depending on the place. So that's through SHA. And I know, like here in Swift Current, the what do they call it? I've got Minds in Motion in my head, but that's us. Forever in Motion, that's what it is, I think. And they have programs all over. And some of what they do is chair-based. So they have exercise programs, but you stay in a chair the entire time that you're doing it. So again, depending on how mobile somebody is, that's an option. The almost deaf is definitely hard. Like if there's any way to be able to, you know, aid them, get hearing aids and enhance things, that's ideal, but it isn't always possible. So, you know, as long as they can see people leading the activities and follow them and things, they can still participate, even if they can't hear. Those are some of the ones that popped into my head. How about the rest of you?
We like, so I'm speaking from Swift Current's availability. We do have some home care availability where they'll have a staff member come and even just like make and have coffee with the client so that they're able to just sit and have that social engagement in their preferred environment. They don't necessarily have to leave their home to go and do that. The Forever in Motion is another thing that we had that Stacey was able to bring up, where they're doing those chair-based or whatever position-based exercises that they prefer. On top of that, we have our own day program as well. There is always a discussion on our end as physicians about like safety, whether like being at home is the best thing for them, as well as is home becoming an isolating place for them, and whether they do like part-time or respite in a care facility so that they get that encouraged social engagement, that encouraged physical engagement, and actually get to see what it's like in a care facility rather than waiting until something like a catastrophe happens or that we're in a medical emergency for them to actually know what life is going to be like if they had to go to those places.
Thank you, Stacey. I think there is a couple of people adding into your chat now. I don't know if you want to speak to any of those.
It's up to you. Do you want me to read them?
Sure, I think so.
So some of the ideas in the chat, like table books, large picture books, and it can also be photo albums so that it's personal and people that they know. Reminiscing kits, and they're talking about a kit that's put together, so basically around whatever the person is interested in or did for work, or whatever might be speaking to them from their past, and you put together some version of that activity that they can still enjoy and do today. So the example there would be for someone who liked to sew, it might be a kit full of different material swatches that they can pull out and look at and feel. So it's appealing to all their senses and to their past connection. Judy's saying that we have some great resources for ideas. Yeah, like there's print resources that we can send you to, and that a great thing to keep in mind is you're looking for something that is stage appropriate, not necessarily age appropriate. So you're looking for things that they're going to connect with at the stage they're at in their dementia, and the skills cognitively, physically, that they still have. And yeah, what are you talking about that activity booklet again? Oh, and Irma's got a question for us, actually, is what's in there right now. So I don't know, I'll let Karen figure out what she wants to do with that.
Sorry, I'm just trying to keep track of two things here now. Hold on. Okay. Okay, Irma is just asking, she's the 1 hour drive west of Prince Albert, and is PA the closest for us to attend Minds in Motion or any other programs? Right now, our in-person Minds in Motion programs are just in Saskatoon and Regina, but we do offer a virtual Minds in Motion program for people anywhere in Saskatchewan, really, rural or urban. And we offer that a few times a year. And our virtual Minds in Motion program has a few spots left, and it starts right away here in the first week in October. So if you're interested, let us know. I'm just taking a peek at the Q&A. I think it's mostly comments that people have so far. I've put down. I think while we're waiting to see if anyone else asks questions, and I think our time is, well, we're already at 8 o'clock here, but maybe we'll just move to a final question actually of the panelists, and I welcome any of you to answer if you would like. So my final question is, do you have any final thoughts you feel important to share about the benefits of an early diagnosis?
From my standpoint, I would like to just reiterate the importance that a lot of things that we recommend from a medical standpoint are help with preservation of your current brain function, your current mental function. And so the early we're able to make that diagnosis, whether it is true dementia or just a cognitive impairment, whether there's actually an impact on what they can or cannot do, the sooner we're able to make those changes, make those connections, make those improvements, the better we're able to maintain what we can do moving forward. Like Stacey had said, working kind of at that front end and maintaining what we can do, what's meaningful for us, rather than just focusing on what the inevitable might be in the future, and being sure that we actually still enjoy the coming years moving forward. The other thing is that, again, even if we don't have a true diagnosis of dementia, we're just noticing maybe some mild cognitive impairment, but we're still functioning well, that connection with our social engagement, our medical literacy, all those things from the Alzheimer's Society will be able to help prevent things from getting worse, either as quickly or as severe it might have been.
Thank you, Dr. Little. Any other thoughts from the panelists on that question? Do you have any final thoughts you feel important to share about the benefits of an early diagnosis?
I guess this probably is a good follow-up to Dr. Little. As a caregiver, I think just getting that diagnosis just helps you get educated and to focus in on what is actually needed for your loved one.
And I think all I would add, because they've already covered important points, is one that's popping into my head is for the person living with dementia. Like, the earlier on the diagnosis and the awareness happens, there's the quality of life piece, but you're also at a functional level where you can take an active role in the dementia community, if you will. So you might decide that you want to be an advocate and get out there and you know, advocate for better services and more supports, or be part of public awareness and help people understand better what dementia is, and maybe remove some of the stigma, maybe participate in research projects. Like, there's all kinds of different angles that you might decide when you're at that front end and still able to do all those things that you might want to be part of, once you understand that that's the path that you're going to be walking on. And then the other thought, and I mean, there's the sad and the gift in what I'm going to say next, I guess, but realizing that you have a diagnosis of dementia tells you that you have a terminal illness. You have something that is going to change and eventually end your life. And the gift in knowing that maybe is that, just like with cancer or anything else, realizing that piece can help the person living with dementia and the family members be very present in all the gifts of every moment, recognizing that at this point they still have that time together, rather than putting it off until, I don't know, in a way that window is closed and that awareness isn't there so much, if that makes any sense.
If I can just add something else, just playing off again what Diane had said. If we do either have that diagnosis of that concern about dementia, it definitely helps inform us as a medical provider. Like, we are providing this care for someone who is being diagnosed or may develop in dementia, but it also kind of puts it in the back of our mind who is providing that active care, so that we are not just focusing on one person and not allowing someone else to be burnt out with that care providing, and making sure that we're treating them as a full, basically a care program or a care family, rather than just focusing on that one person, so that we're not causing someone else to develop other medical issues just while we're focusing on one person.
Thank you very much for all of your contributions, sharing your experiences, your knowledge about early diagnosis and the benefits and the support you've received. I really appreciate it. And I think for now, that'll be our, I think we'll call it an evening for our evening of ed tonight. And I really want to thank again, Kurt. I want to thank Diane, Dr. Little, and also Stacy as panelists for this evening. It was a really rich conversation, and I really appreciate you. Want to also thank our sponsors, SGI and SaskTel Telcare, and thank you to the team I have behind the scenes helping out to make this presentation and panel presentation run smoothly tonight. So I appreciate you. This presentation has been recorded and it will be placed on our Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan YouTube channel in the next few weeks. So also watch your email inbox for an online evaluation link that'll be sent to you in the next day or so. And again, for any of the questions, there's a few people that are asking about certain programs or would like certain support. Please call our Dementia Helpline Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, and I'll just give you that number again. So it's 1-877-949-4141. And don't hesitate to call, and you can ask any dementia related questions or anything about our programs and services. And I just want to thank you again for joining us and have a wonderful evening. I'm going to maybe keep some of my panelists on for just a couple minutes, but everyone else can head off and have a great night. So thank you again.